Should we ban dual citizenship here in the United States? That is a big question that people are asking since the birthright ruling. People are looking for all kinds of ways to correct what they view as a SCOTUS wrong. I don't think the SCOTUS ruled incorrectly. I think definitely birthright citizenship could be defined a little bit better and maybe refined in some instances. But now a lot of people are asking the question of whether or not dual citizenship should be allowed in the United States. And this was interesting. Came across this tweet from the Department of Homeland Security. And they wrote, quote, and they're quoting Theodore Roosevelt, "There is no room in this country for hyphenated Americanism. Americanism is a matter of the spirit and of the soul. Our allegiance must be purely to the United States. We must unsparingly condemn any man who holds any other allegiance." Now, let me ask you a trivia question. When do you think the United States started allowing dual citizenship? 1967 is the answer. So not that long ago. For the vast majority of the country's existence, we did not allow dual citizenship. The country didn't outright ban it, but basically what the country would do is they extremely discourage it, would often rip citizenship away from people if they found out that there was a dual citizenship there. So it was extremely discouraged. And only in 1967 did it change. Why did it change, might you ask? What was the case that created the turning point in 1967? Oh, interesting. It was Ephraim versus Rusk. That's right. This was decided in 1967. Baze Ephraim was a Polish-born naturalized American living in Israel. And he had been stripped of U.S. citizenship because that's what the U.S. would do. If they found out that you were a citizen of another country, they would strip you of American citizenship. So he was stripped of U.S. citizenship because he voted in an Israeli election because he was a dual citizen. The Supreme Court reversed this, holding that the 14th Amendment, which we just have been debating, prevents the government from taking away citizenship without the individual's voluntary consent. I don't actually agree with that. I actually think the 14th Amendment is quite clear about loyalty, actually, and that's what was debated when they crafted the 14th Amendment. They talked endlessly about not owing allegiance to anybody else. That was what it was. The definition of jurisdiction, when they asked, what does it mean specifically to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof? And when Senator Trumbull was asked that question directly, his answer was, what do we mean by subject to the jurisdiction of the United States? Not owing allegiance to anybody else. That is what it means. That's what he says. And they endlessly, if you read the actual May 30th, 1966 debates, they endlessly discuss not owing allegiance to anybody else, jurisdiction and domicile. So like, where do you live? Who do you owe allegiance to? If you were called up to a war, essentially is what it boiled down to. Could the other country call you up? And if they did, would you go, or would you go and fight for the Americans? Like, who would you go fight for if you were called upon to war? And that is really what it meant, was no allegiance to anybody else. So that's the way it had been interpreted up until 1967. But interestingly, in 1967, the Supreme Court reversed that and said, oh, no, you can't be stripped of your citizenship. Not without your voluntary consent. You'd have to actively give it up, is what they're saying. Now, this is an interesting historical tidbit because today now, so since 1967, every once in a while, the question of why do we allow this again crops up. And the most vocal group and the most aggressive group against changing back to the way it was before, where we did not allow dual citizenship, are the Zionists, the Israelis, the Jewish population. They're the ones that say, wait a minute. We want to have our dual citizenship. And the argument they use, but they don't say that. They actually don't say that. The argument they use is, this sounds like anti-Semitism. So this is how it always works. This is anti-Semitic. And I'm sure this was the excuse that was used in 1967. And back then, that was a lot more powerful to say to the Supreme Court justices, well, you're all a bunch of anti-Semites because you're accusing me of dual loyalty. And that is a trope. And apparently it worked, because they then said, okay, fine, you can have dual citizenship, fine. And now today, whenever this discussion comes up, it is always the ADL and other Zionist and Israel-backed organizations that say, wait a minute, we want to have our dual, they don't say, like I said, they don't say we want to have our dual citizenship. They say, this is a trope. You're accusing us of dual loyalty. And so then everybody is basically frightened into silence. Everybody's basically like, oh, well, I don't want to be called an anti-Semite. So, okay, you're right. No dual loyalty, it's fine. But this is being asked. A lot of people are asking it.
What we do is we need to ban dual citizenship in the United States, because what this opinion shows to me more than anything else is that we have a fundamental misunderstanding on what citizenship is. It is an allegiance to a single nation. How can you have allegiance to two nations at the same time, particularly two nations that might be adversaries to each other? It is interesting to me that there are over 30 members of Congress that were born in a foreign country that are currently serving. In the D.C. District Court, one of the places where the president received the most injunctions, we have 5 judges on that court who are all born in a foreign country. Are any of those individuals dual nationals? We don't know. There's no requirement to disclose that. Congress needs to immediately fix that loophole, and what they should say is that you cannot serve in public service in the United States if you are a dual national, if you have allegiance to any other country other than the United States.
Yeah. So it's a discussion people are having, but I'm telling you right now, we're not going to be banning dual citizenship because the Israeli lobby, the Zionist lobby, are going to come out in droves and say, absolutely not, this is a trope. And now, because they don't want, ultimately, and it's always a good excuse to say this is an anti-Semitic trope, but ultimately what they don't want is for their dual citizen population to lose their ability to vote and influence U.S. elections, because that has been extremely powerful. To be able to say AIPAC is an American organization, but it's actually filled with a bunch of American Israelis who have dual citizenship, but they're Americans too. So they say, no, we're Americans. And they just leave out the fact that they're actually Israelis who are more loyal to Israel, obviously, but that's a trope. So we're not allowed to say that. But that is the real reason the U.S. allows dual citizenship, is a case that, of course, had to do with Israel. And it was the lobby that has then prevented us from changing out of dual citizenship. Now, should we bar dual citizenship? In my opinion, yes, we should. We should bar dual citizenship. This is an odd thing. And right now, the way the rule works ever since 1967 is we now default to whatever the other countries around the world say they want, what their laws are. Basically, we default to their laws. So if you're a citizen, you can be a dual citizen of the United States of America and another country, so as long as the other country allows that. If the other country says, no, you have to choose, well, then you have to choose. But we don't actually dictate it anymore. We let the other countries rule on that. So it's up to them. I mean, hey, you want to have dual citizenship with Australia? It's up to Australia. If they let you, then okay, fine. If they don't, then I guess you have to choose. And we act like that with every other country around the world. I think personally we should not have dual citizenship. I think you could have a permanent residency in another country, but you should choose which one you're a citizen of, and that is the one that you would be voting for and active in their political discourse. Whether or not they allow you to keep your citizenship, is another question of, are you truly loyal to the country, right? I mean, there's certain circumstances I think you can strip a person. I mean, certainly the government was doing it up until 1967. So, I do know that this creates complications for people. Many people want to live in multiple countries. I myself am one, but I think you can live in a foreign country as a permanent resident. You don't have to be a citizen because you don't really need to vote in their elections. I personally, I split my time. I don't think that the Italians need me meddling in their elections. I don't know enough about the country. I don't know enough about the history, for me to be meddling in. So I don't think I need citizenship in that country, because that's really the benefit of citizenship. Permanent residency is just fine to be able to live and do whatever you do in the country, just to be functioning and live. Same with the United States. You can live here as a permanent resident, but I think you would have to choose between your Israeli citizenship and your American citizenship, or you'd have to choose between your Australian citizenship and your American citizenship, or your German citizenship and your American citizenship, or your Mexican citizenship and your American citizenship. I think you'd have to choose, because I think it does need to be about allegiance to the country. And that, when you really read through the arguments of the 14th Amendment, that is what they specifically were talking about. They said that children born here, and they talked about Chinese and they talked about European kids. They said they are American, so as long as they're loyalty and they're only subject to America. That's it. And they were pretty clear on that. So it's going to be interesting. The dual citizenship question is going to be very interesting moving forward, because what we're going to see is AIPAC and ADL coming out in full force saying, no, 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 no. Once again, if all of you Americans want to get rid of dual citizenship, we're against it. And you're going to have to do what we say because we actually run things around here. It's going to be interesting to see another one of those scenarios. And then we'll all ask the question, who's really ruining the West? You know, people are saying, oh, it's the Muslims that are ruining the West because they're coming in droves. And, you know, these types of open questions of open nationality, open borders, endless wars that destabilize regions, that cause floods of migration, all of that's going to be in question. And a lot of it does go back to the Israelis, and what they desire seems to be what we end up doing. And I don't think it's for the benefit of the country. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts on dual citizenship. It is kind of it's definitely a hot topic of, and again, I think you could have citizenship in one country and permanent residency in another. And that would force you, and in the United States, we'd say, look, you can hold citizenship of another country if you want to be an Israeli, fine. But you're only a U.S. permanent resident. You cannot influence our elections. You cannot vote here. Curious to hear what you have to say about that. Email me, kim@KimIverson.com. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show, which you can watch in its entirety, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. It is free at KimIversonShow.com.